At the dawn of every history lies a myth, and at the dawn of every nation, there remains an indelible trace left by its first inhabitants. When and how did the Britain we know begin? The quest for that answer starts not with Rome, nor with the Anglo-Saxons, but in the deepest heart of this mist-shrouded isle. Understand the Celts, and you understand Britain. From this moment, seeking the roots of myth and resistance, and the identity that lives and breathes to this day, we shall embark together on this grand journey through time. Before the Romans arrived, before the Anglo-Saxons arrived, before the history of this land was recorded in writing, the British Isles were one vast world. It was the Celtic world. The Celts were a great people based on an Iron Age culture that spread across vast regions of the European continent. Though not a unified empire, they formed a vast cultural community centered around the priestly class of Druids. They shared a common language, mythology, and distinctive artistic styles. They believed that all things in nature possessed a soul. They also believed that life and death formed an endless cycle. Thus, they could become valiant warriors unafraid of death. Their tales were not carved in stone nor written in books. They were passed down from generation to generation solely through the mouths of storytellers and minstrels, in the form of songs and epic poems. For thousands of years, they were the sole and true masters of this mist-shrouded island. Leaving behind megalithic monuments such as Stonehenge, they cultivated a civilization entirely their own. But eternal peace exists only in myth. Across the southern seas, the great waves of history were gathering momentum. The first of these waves possessed a power unlike any before. It was a wave forged of steel, law, and order. The first trial that would alter the fate of the Celts. It was none other than Rome. The first wave was Rome. In 55 BC, when Julius Caesar first landed on the island of Britain, he was deeply impressed by the valor of the Celts. But Rome desired not their valor, but their land and resources. Some 100 years later, during the reign of Emperor Claudius, Rome launched a full-scale invasion of the British Isles. The Celtic tribes put up fierce resistance against Rome's disciplined legions. Queen Boudica's desperate struggle dealt Rome a significant blow, but ultimately they had no choice but to yield to the empire's overwhelming might. Rome completely conquered the region of present-day England and established it as the province of Britannia. They built roads, founded cities, and sowed the seeds of civilization upon this land. However, they could not fully subjugate the Celtic tribes dwelling in Caledonia to the north, present-day Scotland. Thus, Rome created the most colossal frontier in human history, the Hadrian's Wall. At this moment, a distinct line was drawn across the British Isles for the first time. South of the wall lay Roman civilization, north, Celtic wilderness. It was the first fateful fissure that would later divide England and Scotland. 400 years later, as the empire faltered, Rome departed, leaving behind not peace, but a vast vacuum of power. And towards that void, a second wave was gathering momentum. A wave far more brutal and decisive than Rome itself. The second wave was different from Rome, comprising Angles, Saxons, and Jutes. These Germanic tribes came not merely to conquer, but to put down roots in this land. Britain, abandoned by Rome, descended into chaos, and Celtic leaders made the mistake of hiring them as mercenaries. This was like inviting wolves into the fold. This was the longest and most brutal struggle that determined the fate of the British Isles. Unlike the battles against the Roman legions, it was a savage struggle for survival. The cities left behind by Rome were burned, and the Celtic kingdoms collapsed one by one. The legend of King Arthur is the tale of heroes who resisted during this desperate time, the last stand of the Celts. Yet legend alone could not alter the course of history. After centuries of war, the Celts were ruthlessly driven out. From this point, the identity of this land split completely. The fertile eastern and southern lands seized by the Anglo-Saxons became England. The descendants of the Celts, driven into the rugged mountainous west, forged the history of Wales, while the Celts who resisted to the end in the northern highlands preserved the pride of Scotland. And across the sea, on the island, the Celts of Ireland let their own unique culture blossom brilliantly. Though the masters of the British Isles changed, the Celtic spirit, unconquered, began to burn ever more fiercely at the very edge of the land. So we return to our original question. Why does Britain compete as a single team in the Olympics, yet split into 4 teams to compete in the World Cup? The answer is that they were never one to begin with. England is a nation founded by the descendants of the Anglo-Saxon conquerors, while Scotland, Wales, and Ireland are nations founded by the descendants of the Celtic peoples who resisted them. For thousands of years, they spoke different languages, had different histories, and sang different songs. Though united under English rule as a united kingdom, within their hearts, their distinct identities have always lived and breathed. The songs that resound in football stadiums are not mere chants of support. They are an ode to their own unique history, language, and pride, spanning thousands of years. The Flower of Scotland, sung by Scottish fans, celebrates victories over England in battle, while The Land of My Fathers, sung by Welsh fans, honors ancestors who defended their land. The 4 flags are the pride of the ancient Celts, still alive and breathing today, and proof of an unconquered spirit. History is not confined to museums. It is right beside us, alive and breathing like this. The Celts who lived in the age of myth. They fought against the first wave that was Rome, and were swept away by the decisive wave that was the Anglo-Saxons. Their story may seem like a history of defeat, but history is not merely the record of the victors. True history lives and breathes within the unconquered soul. Their songs and banners resounding in stadiums today are the great legacy left by the first inhabitants of this land thousands of years ago, a story that remains unfinished.